Did you beat the game when you were 6?
No, I was horrible.
Horrible.
But the funny thing is, my dad did, and I remember one night coming down to go to school in the morning, and my dad was like red-eyed and bloodshot, and I was like, "What's the matter, Dad?" And he's like, "I beat Mario last night." He stayed up all night and beat it, and like
There's no
went to
save
bed.
file in that game. You have to. It's one
No,
session.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamming, yeah, jamming. I hope you like a jamming too. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Jammin' Cast. It's me, Jamin. I'm still here, still doing stuff. Lots to get to this week. Lots to get to. We have What's News, we got What's Jammin', and we got a beautiful interview with a nice man named Melderon from ClassicWoW.Live. If you have not checked out this resource for World of Warcraft Classic, check it out, ClassicWoW.Live. Let's get to it. What's news, everyone? All right, let's get right into it because we got so much to talk about because I was gone for a week almost, right? For 5 days, I was off the grid. And my podcast, I have so much things to talk about. So episode 6 is here. What's news? And the first piece of news is we're going to talk about Blizzard and Classic WoW. Blizzard will add German, French realms in Europe. So there will now be German, French, Russian, and English servers in Europe from day one once Classic releases, which is amazing. I think a lot of people wanted this. I think it's a good idea. I'm really happy for them. I'm really happy for my European friends. Thank you guys for listening. But also, there you go. You got the new realms. That's important. Sea-Doo won the Level 40 World of Warcraft Classic Dueling Tournament that was hosted by Asmongold, Rich Campbell, and SFan TV. He's an elemental shaman at level 40. He got kind of lucky in the brackets. He started off against a warlock, and then he faced only mages all the way up, I think, to the end. So he didn't lose a single duel. And elemental shamans are very, very good against casters at 40. Whether that'll stick out till 60, I mean, they'll still have those tools, but will casters have extra tools to deal with it? Basically, Sea-Doo said that he lost the level 30 tournament because he couldn't deal with mages as enhance. So the level 40 tournament, he decided to go in elemental, and it really paid off. He just blew them up. It was a beautiful thing. Really happy to watch that. If you haven't seen it, go check out the VODs for that dueling tournament on Asmongold's. I think Rich Campbell has the most best stuff, and SFan TV, if you look at their channels. And it was really awesome seeing a shaman displaying the power of shaman in vanilla, especially the elemental, because everyone knows Unbreakable, and if you don't know Unbreakable, and I say everyone, now I'm going to explain it. It's a video from vanilla World of Warcraft, a two-handed enhancement shaman blowing people up. It was a very popular video back from vanilla World of Warcraft, and it was the thing that hypes you up to play two-handed enhancement is the Unbreakable video. The elemental shaman is always good. I mean, I've heard about it, but I don't think there's that video for it or that memory of someone just doing it. People remember being blown up by elemental shamans, but there's no, like, here's the musical rock cut. Here's the cut to PvP of elemental shaman doing damage. And holy crap, did Sea-Doo do damage. It was glorious. It was glorious how much damage he would blow up in an instant. He would get lucky with the crits and nature's swiftness. Was it nature's swiftness? Elemental mastery? Whatever it is. Elemental shaman looked good. And so I'm excited. By the time you're listening to this, the Classic Beta will have ended. July 12th was the final day of Classic Beta. They had a special event. It's not July 12th at the time of this recording, so I'm not sure what the special event is. I'm excited to hear about what they do for the final day. Blizzard has some stuff planned. They're probably just going to spawn a bunch of stuff like they did during the stress test, Ragnaros or stuff in the cities. And, the servers are being destroyed, right? They don't have to worry about continuity of characters and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to watch that. I'm excited to see that. The final stress test will be on July 25th. And name reservations will begin in August, and August 27th is the release date. So we're getting closer. We're almost there. We're almost a month away from World of Warcraft Classic. A month away from the terrible, terrible grind and beautiful, beautiful game that is World of Warcraft Classic. Some big things going on in World of Warcraft raiding news. So the Shrine of the Eternal Palace of Ishara's Eternal Palace, whatever it is, the newest raid is coming out. And Method had a bit of a drama fest happening with Red Bull. So apparently, according to this Twitlonger Method SEO, who wrote this again? Let me check this real quick. Open this. Come on, show me show notes. So Scott McMillan wrote a Twitlonger talking about Red Bull and how they manipulated Method a little bit, or they were attempting to manipulate Method. They wanted rights. They wanted ownership of the Race to World First segment that Method had been putting on. They wanted to put on their channel and have the complete creative control over it, but Method was not interested in that. They obviously want there because they are saying they're better for the players, they're more whatever. They want it. Red Bull wants it. They don't want to give it to each other. So Red Bull went and found another guild that is going to do it for them. So it was a little bit of drama in the Race to World First. I think overall it's just going to be more people are going to know about it. More people are going to view it. Red Bull has gotten more exposure. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know if anyone's going to stop drinking Red Bull because the way they're practicing and trying to. I mean, Red Bull's kind of an extreme, branding thing. So I don't know if people care. Do you care that Red Bull's being a little seedy, a little bit weird? They're trying to get their money, but Method wants their money too. So this is a pro Methods person posting this. I'm sure if it was a pro Red Bull person, they would have their own slant. I don't know where I fall. I don't really care that much. I'm excited just to see the World First competition, to see these people doing this dungeon. I never got to watch any of the other ones. I didn't know about them. So this will be the first raid tier where I actually watch. And I'm excited to watch it all. I am never going to be able to do this. I don't think I'll do this dungeon on Mythic or Heroic or whatever it is while it's active content. I don't think I'll have that opportunity. I don't have the time, the schedule to be able to do that. But I'm excited to watch it and see someone do it because it really is a cool piece of the game. And watching and being able to participate by viewing it is much better than having to actually do it. I mean, it's so stressful. I can step up and walk away whenever I want. Doing it, you have to be there, and there's subs, and there's people waiting to play because they need a better arrangement of characters, a better arrangement of classes for this, and this, and everyone needs to be stocked up. As a viewer, you can just sit in, watch, enjoy, relax, see it, and be amazed by how these guys coordinate. So that'll be good. I'm excited for this Race to World First coming up. And then there was another post I saw on Twitter by Steve Stewart Williams at SteveStewWill. And it's a study that aggressive video games are not a risk factor for future aggression in youth. Based on a longitudinal study, and it goes 30-34. I don't really know all the details. According to this study, it would take 27 hours a day of M-rated gameplay to produce clinically noticeable changes in aggression. Let me read that again. It would take 27 hours a day of M-rated gameplay to produce clinically noticeable changes in aggression. So, according to this study, and they did it in Singapore, and they had, control groups and stuff. It seems legit. It's a legit study. It appears to be. But they're saying that video games don't change the way we are aggress, right? Like, they don't make you aggressive. Like, if you play bully or whatever, any game, you don't go around and then bully people because of it. Like, you don't play Grand Theft Auto and then go and do crazy things because of Grand Theft Auto. I think it does normalize some things, like shootings and violence is a little bit more normalized nowadays because of the overexposure to it. But that was true with movies as well. It's not just video games, right? Like, there's a lot of violent movies out there that normalize violence, that make it seem as if it's a natural thing. It's terrifying in the movie, but then you hear, like, okay, so when you hear a gunshot, if you do hear a gunshot, and I've heard it before in the neighborhood, in your head you're kind of like, was that a firecracker? Is it July 4th right now? What's going on? Who's celebrating right now? What is that? And I check my watch that I don't have, looking for the time, looking for the date. And I think video games and movies do normalize violence and explosions, and it's not terrifying until someone's pointing a gun at you, and that's terrifying. Let me tell you that. So yeah, this is an interesting study by who is this by? Christopher J. Ferguson, John C. K. Wang. It was received 11 June 2019, accepted 20 June 2019. Springer Science and Business Media, LLC, part of Springer Nature 2019. Okay. So aggression, not like the video games, according to this study. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was something to share. So that's what's news, everyone. That's exciting. That's what's going on in the world of video games, in the realm of the news of video games. Lots more, of course, going on. Lots more. But, not enough time to talk about all that and have an interview and talk about myself. Because that's what I like to do. I like talking about myself. Who doesn't? I do. That's all. If you don't, thank you, because I need some time. I need space. I need to be able to talk about myself and get all this air and hot air out of my body. So here we go. What's jamming, people? Welcome to the segment where I get to exposit about myself. I get to just talk. I get to just say things, and you get to listen. So thank you for being here. The first thing I want to talk about is my trip. So I went on a trip. I went to see my cousin get married. It was beautiful, beautiful moment. But I got introduced to this game, which I've played before, but I have never sat down and played over a longer period of time. My cousin brought this game called Ultimate Werewolf. And I would call it a board game. It's kind of a card game, board game. It's more of a social interaction experience where you just kind of lie to each other the entire time and attempt to find out what the truth is through playing the game. So you get, so for anyone who doesn't know what this game is, you get a card. You get given a card. Play with up to 75 people. I don't think I could ever play with 75 at one time. Probably break it up around 20 people. If you have 75 people, just break it into smaller groups. Why play with 75 in one group? It's insane. So Ultimate Werewolf, you get given a card at the beginning of the game. There's one moderator, by the way. And there's two teams. There's Werewolf team. Okay. This is the basic version. You can add a little bit more complexity and have a third team, but it's kind of weird and unnecessary to talk about. But basically, you start off with two teams, werewolves and villagers. So the werewolves want to kill all the villagers. The villagers want to kill all the werewolves. The thing is, only the werewolves get to automatically kill someone, and the villagers have to figure out who the werewolves are before they're killed off. So every night, what happens is, and in the game it's called nighttime, but what basically happens is everybody closes their eyes, and it's honor system, you're not supposed to peek. The werewolves get to wake up, they open their eyes, they point at somebody, so the werewolves all know who each other are, they point at someone, they kill that person. So then the werewolves close their eyes, and the moderator says, okay, everybody wake up, and the whole group wakes up and opens their eyes, and he goes, everyone wakes up except Bill. Bill is gone. Bill is dead, he was killed by werewolves in the middle of the night. So Bill doesn't get to play anymore. Then the villagers have to decide how to save themselves, because they're going to go to sleep in a couple more minutes because the game's going to switch back to nighttime soon. It's daytime. And they have to decide who is killing people. Who are the bad people at the table? So you do it diplomatically. You just accuse people. Yeah, I think Ted... I think Nancy is a werewolf. And Nancy, oh, not me. I'm not a werewolf because I'm a villager because I love the village. Whatever their reasoning. And the creative ways you come up with to actually try to expose people as werewolves is really good. It's kind of like a poker face thing. You see someone smiling. They're like, ooh, that's funny. I'm going to kill that. You're like, oh, he's a werewolf. And then you accuse him. And then he gets to defend himself. And then the villagers get to vote whether they lynch that person or not. And if enough people vote down, which is more over half, to lynch the person, that person dies and they're out of the game and they reveal who they are. And then you get a little bit of clues based on who dies, right? So a villager dies. If you lynch someone and they're a villager, you start understanding, wait, okay, who voted for this person? Who was the adamant that this person was a werewolf? Because they were wrong. Could they be a werewolf trying to kill villagers during the middle of the day because they want to speed up their murder, basically? Because the more days we get, the more chances we have to find out who the actual werewolves are. And so it's a speaking game. There's no pieces, there's no board, there's no thing to follow or track. The moderator makes sure to track the things that are important. But everybody else, basically, you're just trying to find out who's lying and who's not. And it's a blast to play. It's amazing. It's a beautiful game. If you have not checked it out, check out Ultimate Werewolf. I've played it before a couple of years ago, but I didn't play it as in-depth as I did with my cousins over this break. And it reminded me of another game I played years ago called Secret Hitler. And I haven't yet played this recently, but I played it a long time. It's very, very similar. You play one person's Hitler, and the other people are all trying to figure out who Hitler is. There's a couple people on Hitler's team. They're fascists, and then there's the Democrats, and you're trying to pass legislation. It's a little more weird, complicated than Ultimate Werewolf. There is an actual board, and there's tracking and stuff. But it's still a similar concept. Everyone's lying, and everyone's trying to prove that they want to prove to their teammates that they're good, but they don't want to prove to the enemy that they're on the other team, right? The werewolves know, but anyway, very good game. Also interesting. And then I got to come back and do some more daily quests. And Operation Mechagon is out, and the raid is out. I have not even attempted to try the raid. I signed up for a couple groups, but my item level is 400, and apparently that's not high enough. I have to be 410, apparently, to be able to go in. So I'm just going to keep grinding mana pearls. Hopefully I can get to item level 410 in a week or two. Don't have flying yet because I was gone for 5 days. I'm getting close, so close to flying. I think maybe 3 or 4 more days and I'll have flying. But more importantly, I finished the quest line leading to the Eternal Palace raid. And actually, it was really interesting. You have to get, I think, 3,000 experience points with the followers. Cumulative with the followers you get in Nazjatar. So I've been leveling up the tank guy. He's level 10 now. Rank 10, whatever you want to call it. And he's really interesting. He's actually a decent tank now. You know, he's got like 30% damage reduction on himself. He respawns so fast, so even if he dies, it's not a big deal. And he has a decent time holding threat. He's not perfect at it. He's not amazing. He's not like 100% threat all the time. But, you know, he holds threat. And usually the thing dies before he loses threat. And if it doesn't, then I just kite it for a little bit, and then he picks threat back up. But we got to see some nice lore characters. Lorthamar, again, Greymane, Jaina, and then the Arcanist, first Arcanist Thalisra. Can't even say her name. But those 4, Thalisra really took a what do you call it? A front point. She took the guiding point. She took the helm, as it were, of this quest line. And I really like her as a character. It actually reminds me of the Night Elves from Warcraft 3. They weren't so complicated and stupid, and like there wasn't some dumb motivations for them. Like I don't care about the Night Warrior thing. I don't care about Malfurion and Illidan all that much, even though that's what Warcraft 3 was. But it brings me back to this point of like they're just like another person. Like they're doing these things. They're not like this like god, right? Malfurion's basically a god now, and how powerful he is. Thalisra is very strong. She's a very amazing mage, but she's not, you know, what's her name? The big Ajara level power, right? She's not like insane amount of magic power. She has limits. And she's not just a goody two shoes. She's an interesting character to me. She's the first character, I think, from Legion, right? That's her first time she showed up. She's got a lot of character development that I really like. I really enjoy her. And she's like one of the first characters I like since Warcraft 3, if that makes sense. That's what I mean when I say like they remind me of Warcraft 3. She's the first character, I feel like, and her and Oculus as well is similar, that I like. Of all the new characters they've introduced over the years in this MMO, Thalisra is like the first character that I like, that I enjoy seeing and hearing, and every time she's on screen, I'm like, I want to know more. Tell me more. What's she doing? What's her mindset? What's going on? I want to understand all this night elf culture stuff going on, and it's interesting. And it's much better than tree elf, night elf. Like the magic Suramar stuff is way better than the night elf tree stuff, which is so boring to me. And then I attempted Operation Mechagon. So I've been doing the Mechagon stuff. I got the jetpack right now, so I can fly around anytime I want. I can just build a new one anytime when I run out. And they last 20 minutes, so you can just fly around. It feels like a druid flight form, basically. I just double jump and I'm flying. And so just flying around Mechagon, getting rep, killing rares, doing the daily quests. Got destroyed by some Alliance the other day. I had one Alliance guy come after me, this Paladin. He is flying already. So he chased me down, and I didn't want to fight him. I was like, no, I don't have time to fight. I'm trying to do daily quests. I want to get this done. And he went on, he kept mounting up and chasing me and then landing and attacking me again. So I just turned and killed him. And it was actually really funny to me that he would chase so hard and then I could just turn and kill him. I didn't think that was going to happen. I'm not very good at PvP. I'm not the best. But that moment, he apparently wanted to kill me, and I didn't die. So it was, it stuck out as a good memory. I apologize to that Paladin. I'm sorry that you decided to be so aggressive. Maybe next time. It was fun to not die. But a lot of times, what happens when you start world PvPing is another person from the opposite faction or from your faction will show up, and then it becomes one-sided. It's no longer like a duel. And this was like a duel that we had. There was some ebb and flow to it. Like, he was chasing me, yes, but he almost killed me a couple times, but I was able to save myself. So it was a really good fight, and I really enjoyed it. I wish I knew that person's name. I wish I had written it down or something, but it was good. And then, like I said, I attempted Operation Mechagon. Operation Mechagon was not what I thought it was going in. You literally feel like you just instanced into another version of the island. There's a bunch of elites around you. And it's a mythic, right? So it's actually really difficult. But the group I was with, no one wanted to talk. No one wanted to communicate. I was attempting to. I was typing, hey, maybe, do you want me to CC a target? Because we're taking a lot of damage. The healers keeps dying. Like every pull, the healer's dying. And this is just on trash. So I'm trying to CC things. Nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to CC things. Like I would hex something, and then the Death Knight would pull it in, and they would all try to cleave it down, and then someone would die. And okay, I guess that's what we're doing. And then we wiped on the first boss like once, and everybody quit. And I was just like, well, what did you expect? We wiped on the first, we literally wiped on the first trash pack. I just pugged it, and this is just me realizing that I need a guild. I need to find players to play with because this is rough. This is rough to try to do these quests and these dungeons by myself. So hopefully I'm just going to grind mana pearls, and once I get like item level 410, I can start looking for a guild or something like that. I'm not going to, look for super hardcore guild or anything, but someone that can actually run Mechagon, who maybe are running Mythic Keys, who need someone who's, decent. I'm decent at the game. I remember running key dungeons and all that in Legion and really enjoying it, but I need to find a good group. I need to find people that are good at this game to play with. They don't have to be amazing. They don't have to be top of the line. They just have to, be willing to communicate and talk. So we got to do that. That's something I got to do. So that's what's jamming this week. Most importantly, I got a nice, beautiful interview coming up. Beautiful, bubbly interview. Thanks for sticking it out. Melderon from ClassicWoW.Live. He's also got a YouTube channel. Def Camp and Melderon. Let me find this real quick. I'm going to find it so that I can say it correctly because I don't want to mess it up. It's Def Camp, DEFCAMP, N Melderon TV. And it's the ampersand. Is that how you say that symbol? It's the weird squiggly N symbol, right? Twitch.tv/DefCamp, DEFCAMP. And Twitter is at DEF_MELTV. So Def_MELTV. And then, of course, ClassicWoW.Live. If you haven't checked out ClassicWoW.Live, check it out. I'm not getting paid to say that. I just really enjoyed this website. No one's telling me to say this, okay? I just really enjoy this website, and I figured that he's been kind enough to come onto my podcast and talk about it and tell me what makes him tick because I really love his videos. And so, yeah, let's check it out, guys. Let's get to the interview right away. Thanks for sticking it out. Here we go. Welcome back to Jamincast. I'm here. I'm really excited. I have a very impactful person I'm excited about because the amount of minutia and detail that he goes into for Classic WoW, and as anyone who listens, I can't stop talking about Classic WoW. But Melderon, thank you so much for being here. From ClassicWoW.Live is your big website.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
you're very welcome. I'm great. A little busy, but I'm glad I took time to do this because I love to do some community outreach and stuff like that, and to go on other channels and talk about anything. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for asking me to be on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to have you because first off, my name is Jamin the Shaman was my
I love
original
it.
name, and I used to do a podcast like years ago. I mean, I used to back during Wrath of the Lich King was when I really got into. We got server first. 25-man heroic Lich King, and I was Elemental Shaman then. It was
Nice,
like,
dude.
yeah. So I really, it's exciting to come back to Classic WoW, and the just talking about World of Warcraft like is just like, oh, I remember doing this. I remember all this. Like I forgot. I stopped talking about it because it just lost all its flavor, and now it's back. I can feel it again.
Yeah, so it's this is something that we've been. Oh, man, I started my channel actually a week or two after NOS was shut down, because I was angry, honestly, about what happened, and I was a big NOS and private server guy for a long time, and I didn't really make content until after that, and I was kind of emboldened to do it after the NOS shutdown, and I thought to myself, well, I'll just kind of do some tutorial-y type videos, and to be perfectly honest, I was uh, where I am now and where I was then. I'm much more well versed in the game. It was very basic stuff, basically like tutorials and what does it mean, what is the warrior and what is rage. It was very
Yeah.
simplistic stuff. Um, but once the announcement came out, I was like, okay, time to switch this into high gear, and we kind of just been doing a lot more stuff that we're interested in. So
Yeah. So, as I understand, you're a geneticist. Is your day job?
mm-hmm.
Is that so? What does that mean for you in the way you approach WoW and how you approach Classic? Because that obviously has got to change the way you think about the game.
Yeah, so at some point, probably early on, I started to consider, using the scientific method to kind of analyze Warcraft. I'm also very much into the non-sciencey stuff too, and the non-numbers stuff. I do have a series called Classic Wild Gems, and I've done some stuff in the past where I explore the lore. So I kind of I'm very balanced when it comes to content creation. However, I'll say that I'm probably known for a lot of my more scientific methody kind of stuff where I kind of analyze spell coefficients and weapon buffs and all this kind of thing. And Shaman is a perfect class to test those things. So I kind of bring in my real life job a little bit into my work, because I try to either work by myself or collaborate with people who are also doing more the sciencey theory crafting side of Warcraft. And I kind of use my real life skills to accommodate that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching the video that it's talking about the HPME and your DPS and your HPS and all the ranking of your stuff. I don't know why I've watched that video so many times. It's 30 minutes of like just formulas and someone yelling and like graphs, and I'm just like, I don't know why I think it's so interesting, but watching it is and I don't even want to heal. Like I don't even want to be a healer as a shaman when I get to the in Classic. But just these videos that you have are just really 30 minutes of minutia. It's brilliant, really, honestly.
Well, thank you. I couldn't do it without my collaborator Osgar, who actually built the tool from scratch. He and I basically met him on Reddit. Like literally, I saw him post the first version of the tool, kind of like the beta version of it, and I'm like, dude, this is amazing. How about we do this? And he's like, yes, let's do it. And he's very mathematically minded, and we were able to create a metric. Basically, everyone uses HPME or HPS as the two metrics that kind of dictate which spell to use in Classic WoW. Since downranking is a very important thing in Classic WoW, your variation in casting as a healer really comes to ranks. There's not a lot of heals in Classic WoW, so you kind of have to fill the gap using lower ranks of spells that are a little bit weaker but have a higher HPME or a more mana efficient. So we decided to take HPS and HPME into account and create a new metric that kind of weighted those two scores, and that we call it HES. And that's kind of literally was us brainstorming on Discord, trying to think what we can possibly do to make this tool better. And that's basically how that tool came to be and how that video came to be.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't exist if it wasn't for me reaching out to Oscar and him being such an amazing collaborator, and his work ethic is amazing. So
Wow. Yeah.
he works full time too, so it's not like he has a lot of free time either. So
yeah, it's insane. And it's like a value. I don't know, value casting. It's not quite like the cheapest. It's not the most expensive. You don't get the much bang, but it's like the right in the middle, the perfect little thing you want for your moment.
Absolutely, and that doesn't mean like I make sure I stress in that video. It doesn't mean that that's the only spell you're going to use.
Right.
You're still going to have situational uses for a lot of different ranks, and most heroes will tell you that they'll put 3 to 4 ranks of each of their heals on their bars. Just for scenario X where the tank needs this much healing and you only have this much time to put it out. Like that needs to be on your bars and ready. You can't be scrolling through your spell book, like, oh, let me use rank 4 right now. You need to have that stuff ready to go. So most healers, this is just a piece of the puzzle, right? Healers in general need to have that gut instinct and need to practice for a time to kind of get that down. But this is just another tool to hopefully help people out and maybe help people who aren't used to healing in vanilla WoW become a little bit more knowledgeable. So that's my biggest hope, is to help people who are new to the game, because I want new fresh faces in Classic WoW as much as I want the returning players.
Yeah, I was talking to someone a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about this. Everyone's going to want to relive their moments in class. And I was like, no. Classic WoW is not going to be about just people who want to relive their moment. It's going to be all these people. I mean, the 12-year-olds. When Classic WoW came out, when I was 15, 16, I think, something like that, and it's going to happen again. Like, there's still people that are 15 or 16 that are going to want to play again this time. Yes, the graphics are not cutting edge. Yes, it's an older game being relaunched. But there's still people that have never experienced it, that know nothing about it, really, that will try it out. And it's going to be, all those fresh faces are going to change the whole game. It's going to change all the way we experience the game and the way the game, the community and how people are interacting.
Absolutely. And if the NOS Postmortem told us anything, which was a document that the NOS team produced and published after it was shut down, basically giving all of their user statistics for all the people who created accounts on Nostalrius, and you'd be surprised how many people played on NOS that would have been too young to play when the game was out live. I'm talking like they would have been like 6 or like 4, or something like that.
Yeah.
18-year-olds playing this game, and they were, a significant proportion of that population, and that's huge considering, in graphics, you're right, graphics don't make a game. Look at Minecraft, look at like a lot of these popular mobile games. They don't have really good graphics, but people play them because they're good games, right? And that's kind of what Classic WoW is.
Yeah. So what I normally ask is my first question, and I completely skipped it just because I'm so excited. Is what's the first game that you ever played that left an impression on you? Like even not necessarily WoW, but what's the first game you ever played that left an impression that made you
Super Mario Brothers?
Yeah. For which one? The original Super Mario 1?
Super Mario
on
the NES. Yep.
Gotcha.
I was I don't know, probably like 6.
5 or 6,
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was born in '83, so I don't know what year that came out. So when it came out, I played it,
gotcha.
And that was it for me. I was hooked on video games. That was all I needed.
Yeah. That's a hell of a game. I mean, you can't go wrong with Mario. It's amazing. Did you beat the game when you were 6?
I was horrible.
Horrible.
But the funny thing is, my dad did, and I remember one night coming down to go to school in the morning, and my dad was like red-eyed and bloodshot, and I was like, "What's the matter, Dad?" And he's like, "I beat Mario last night." He stayed up all night and beat it, and like,
there's no save file in that game. You have to. It's one session.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed by that. And he doesn't game anymore. It's kind of funny. He like gamed a little bit when I went back then. And I think games just got a little bit too much for him. Like 2 buttons was enough for him, A and B or whatever. Start select. That was enough. And I thought that was so cool. I was like, oh, my dad beat Mario, like that's awesome. And but yeah, that was a good memory. I'll never forget that.
I can imagine as a kid going to school and being like, guess what my dad did? My dad beat Mario. And all the kids just being like, what? That's awesome, man. Oh my God.
Yeah. It was pretty awesome.
So when did you start playing WoW? When did WoW Did you play
So
vanilla?
late, I just finished college. So I graduated in '05 from my undergrad, and I worked for a while before I went back to school. So I was started like that. I think it was December of '05 or January of '06, and I'm pretty sure when I played, I remember that the vendors, not the vendors, the Encourage NPCs were in the major cities, and they were like asking for stuff, and I'm like, I'm not giving you anything. I don't know what the hell this is. I had no
Yeah,
idea
the
what
AQ
Encourage
event. Wow.
was. Yeah, um, and that's when I started. I did not play, so I did get a Warrior to 60 in vanilla. But the funny thing is that this is to show you how much of a noob and how much of an idiot I was back then. I literally got to 60 and I felt so underpowered, mostly because I had talents in places that, I remember I had points of protection, points in fury, points in arms, and I just, my buddy was trying to teach me how to play the game and all this stuff. He bought me my mount. I didn't have enough money to buy my mount, and I literally one day was so fed up that I deleted him.
You deleted
And
your level 60
I
character?
deleted my level 60 war. I actually got him back later. Blizzard got me like it wasn't until like Legion actually.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and they kept that information that long. And I rolled a mage. I didn't get the mage to 60 before TBC came out, but I did get him to 70 in TBC. And I actually did my first raid on him. I did Karazhan,
Did you farm
and
the
I did.
Spellfire set?
Yeah, I did. I
Yeah.
did, and I did a little bit of like PvP. Um, but it wasn't until Wrath that I considered myself I got to be okay at the game, like good enough to raid, and
Yeah.
I actually started a guild in Wrath. Yeah.
That was the same for me. It's basically I had a mage during Burning Crusade, and I wanted him to play as fire, but I had to be frost in order to farm my Spellfire set because I had to kill fire elementals. And so I ended up being, I think, frost the entire time in Burning Crusade because I never finished. I never had time to farm it all. I don't remember what it was going. I think I was leveling a shaman at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually didn't level my first shaman until Wrath of the Lich King, and then all my shaman theory crafting is from going back in the private servers. I didn't play shaman when I played original vanilla, and I fell in love with them later. I actually fell in love with them in Wrath, and then got more appreciation of them as I went back in time. And they were great in Wrath. I loved them in Wrath, but I really got to fell in love with the vanilla shaman because of the just all the idiosyncrasies with the imbues and the shocks and
Mm-hmm.
all the different talents and chain heal, how cool that is and how unique it is and all this stuff. So
Yeah, I didn't think I would care as much as I did until I got the demo from BlizzCon and playing a shaman and putting down having stone skin and earth and strength of earth totem and having to choose between them. There was something magical about that moment.
yeah,
Not it's like the dumbest decision. Like I'm probably just going to choose strength of earth every time, but the fact that I'm sitting there looking at my buttons like, oh, there they are. They're all back. All those old friends that I got it's like your old pets that got taken in the shed, and you're like, I don't know what happened to him, but he's back all of a sudden.
exactly.
He found his way home.
It's a beautiful thing to go back to vanilla shaman because there's so much choice, and TBC had this as well. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that everyone loves the two-handed the two-handed non-dual wielding shaman of vanilla. That's unique, and those big hits and the unbreakable video and all these things like Wind Fury and Wind Fury did not have an internal cooldown in vanilla, where it did have a cooldown in TBC, meaning that you couldn't proc Wind Fury on each main hand swing in TBC. There was like a 3-second internal cooldown. So if your weapon speed was less than 3 seconds, you would never be able to proc 2 Wind Furies in a row. Whereas in vanilla, no matter how fast that main hand weapon is, it could be a 1.6-second dagger. You could proc Wind Fury every single hit, theoretically. Of course, you won't, but and that's unique to vanilla shaman.
The things that I've been listening to in watching because I don't have the beta, but being able to watch people play there's two big problems with classic WoW that people have been talking about recently,
Mm-hmm.
at least, is the first off layering is how people are feeling with that, and the other one's the melee leeway. People are talking about that. Do you know anything about this? Because I've seen so many people
A
saying,
little
"Oh,
bit.
it wasn't classic. It wasn't in classic." Melee leeway being a thing.
Yeah, so layering, I'll just comment on that briefly. I think that I rolled on the PvE server only because I'm a PvP player, but
Mm-hmm.
the reason I did it was because I knew I had a lot ahead of me as far as testing is concerned. I think the most frustrating thing would be sitting in like a high level zone with intellect gear, like white hitting mobs to get my weapon skill up and getting ganked by someone. I was just like, I don't want to go through that because I won't be able to defend myself. So I rolled PvE. The reason I mention that is because layering doesn't really exist because there's not enough people on the PvE server. So I don't have firsthand experience. My brother does though, Def
Okay.
Camp, and it's very strange. So he'll be like fighting, and you'll see like, either like like people will zone in and out of like existence, and mobs will do the same thing. It's very immersion breaking. And from what I understand, from what I've talked to a lot of people in the community, and what the consensus seems to be is that there could be ulterior motives, but I think Blizzard's main concern is they feel like merging servers later, if there's a big die off or there's a big tourist effect where people come into the game, they realize it's not for them and they leave, they'd rather do this layering instead of merge dead servers. They feel like
Yeah.
merging dead servers is more um, community breaking, immersion breaking than layering is. I don't know if I agree with that, but I think that's their stance.
Mm-hmm. And they haven't mentioned when they're going to remove it, and I think that's also a choice of theirs, in that they want that ability to choose when they're going to remove it. Like, hey, it's really really popular. We need to keep layering for a couple more weeks or a couple months, or hey, it's not that popular. We can take layering off. It's totally fine.
Right. And I also think they have no issue building new servers. That to them is not as immersion breaking or community breaking as merging servers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I agree with that, but I think that, look, I mean, I get both sides of the argument. If I was on a dead server and all of a sudden, like, we're merging you with server Y, and then, your population doubles overnight, and now you see all these new people. I guess that's immersion breaking, but to me, that's a better game experience. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I would agree.
Um,
Yeah, to have, you're like, wow, this game sucks. Nobody's here, and then to complain when 1,000 people show up and be like, oh well, I don't remember them. But that's like that's how life and worlds work. Like people show up that you don't know. Like it's not going to be just your
yeah,
friends on one server.
I agree. I agree. And I don't think layering is going to have a lasting impression on the game, because I do believe them that they're going to get rid of it as soon as they possibly can. But at the same time, it it does feel bad when you see like these streamers showing like, oh, I got two Gurbashi Arena trinkets because I um, exploited the layering system,
Mm-hmm.
or I was able to get a mining node twice because I logged in and out or something like that. That does feel bad, and I think that could have dire implications on the end game because like things like powerful PvP trinkets like oh Christ, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of this thing. The title charm. So the title charm is a rare spawn drops it, and the chance of him dropping it is like 30% or something. So you have to be there when he spawns, and you have to be lucky enough for him to drop it. And if you're in a group, you have to be lucky to win it, right?
Yeah.
So all those possibilities. Now imagine if there's like X layers, and these smart people who want to exploit the title charm will jump in and out of layers by this logging in, logging out kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then now you have more title charms on your server than you would normally have because you have these people like that are constantly layer hopping. That could have implications years down the road because you have all these artificially created or uh, um, not created, but you know what I mean. Like it's almost
Yeah.
like an
It's an extra
effective.
infusion into the
Yes,
economy of
thank you,
stuff that
thank you.
shouldn't be
Yeah,
there.
right. So there are implications that layering could have on the game. However, I'm hopeful, wishful thinking that it won't be big. And I hope that everyone's leveling experience feels as classic as possible. That's the most important thing because leveling experience, unlike any other iteration of the game, is such a big part of Classic WoW. It is 60 levels. It's not 10. TBC leveling experience was amazing. I'm not saying it wasn't, but the amount of time is, you clearly can't compare it. And the leveling experience makes Classic WoW. That it's such a huge part of the game that I believe they even balance classes, in my eyes, due to that aspect. Like hunters are a good example. Hunters are very quick levelers, but when it comes to end game, they're not really a sought after class. And that's because they don't scale well, and their DPS is subpar compared to warriors and rogues and mages and even warlocks. But you kind of pay that cost during the leveling process. Warriors are the opposite end of that. Warriors are usually the slowest leveler for most players. But when you get to 60, man, you can DPS, you can be a powerful PvP machine, you can be a de facto tank, and you pay that cost again during the leveling process. And I believe that the leveling part of the game is a significant portion of the overall balancing of the game. And to modify that in any way, whether it's layering or dynamic respawn or whatever, it kind of, you don't get the classic WoW experience in my opinion. But again, this is, you got to pick and choose your evils, right? This is, I don't know.
There's downsides to the idea of having more servers that might all die out and then having to merge them all later, which also might be also the same thing as the GM ticket problem for Blizzard, in that I don't want to deal with that. Like, I don't want to have to get your items and transfer to somebody else because you guys couldn't figure out how to get the guy who needed them to have them. So let's just make them tradable, right? Like, let's.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, John Statz, who is one of the original Classic WoW developers, who we had the privilege of interviewing, he stated in his book, The WoW Diary, that, believe it or not, customer service representatives were the most significant money sink for Blizzard. Early days, and I think continued to this day. And it's amazing to consider that that's likely why, a lot of these things are in place, these quality of life issues, because they don't have the manpower.
Mm-hmm.
And loot trading is one of them, but loot trading was now finally, thankfully, limited to only raids, because that would have been a huge problem in dungeons, because there's a lot of pieces of gear that people could form little mafias and try to keep for themselves,
Yeah.
But there's a lot of these things that right-click reporting is actually the big one. Right-click reporting, I think, exists because they just don't have the numbers to deal with issues. So we'll see how that works out for Classic. I'm not really sure how that's going to work out. Maybe it'll be a non-issue, but I could see some small pockets of people like exploiting that right-click reporting, getting people kicked from the game, and who knows? We'll see.
And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was Earthbind kiting and melee leeway. And like I was on during the stress test, I was attempting to Earthbind kite because I watched your video and I was like, all right, Earthbind kiting, let's try. And I was getting smacked by this mob like 4 or 5 times every time I ran past it. And I was like, I guess I'm bad at this game. I don't know.
No, you're not. What race were you playing? Just so out of curiosity.
A troll.
Okay, good. Because I want to make sure it's not just Torrent.
Yeah.
It seems like Earthbind kiting is DOA. This leeway, I've been kind of schooled on this a little bit by different people, and people say don't call it melee leeway because it's not melee leeway. Apparently, there's different kinds of leeway. Let's just call it leeway. And this did exist in vanilla WoW. However, what I think is happening is there's an error in translation somewhere, whereas it existed. But I think the way it's being implemented in a game of today's standards is manifesting in this very weird way where it seems like it's very hard to explain. But basically, what I think leeway was in place for back in the day was it was a way to buffer inconsistent server pings between players. Mm-hmm. And what I think it's happening, and we can all argue and say, well, no changes. Yeah, okay, fine. That's great. And I usually err on the side of no changes with everything. But in this scenario, I think it's archaic to leave this mechanic in the game. I don't know how right I am with that. I don't know how wrong I am with that. It just seems wrong to me that private servers have a tighter window when it comes to sharing attacks between NPCs or players than Classic does, and it almost seems kind of counterintuitive to keep this in the game. That's the best I can kind of. It's a very hard thing to talk about because I don't know exactly what I'm talking about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a hard thing to test, and then it's also like you can't get right into the exact details of it. And people post code, and you're like, well, I don't know if that's how the game's reading this code, because you have to decompile the code to bring it out to make it understandable, and then it's kind of crazy. There's so many little factors that could go to change it. And then you have to ask yourself, and I have the same question in my head: is it it's not classic? Was it in classic? So should we leave it in, or should we? And honestly, I think again, the no changes policy is mostly a way for Blizzard to say, hey, let's not add things because we don't have the kind of manpower to be going crazy on this. We still have to deal with the insane pipeline that is the retail WoW pipeline of content. Because they're obviously going to be working on the next expansion already, and they've got tons of raids and instances and whatever that they've already been dealing with, and they don't want to add a second pipeline of classic WoW changes.
Yeah, I agree, and no changes from the get-go. Was my credo for a very long time, and in many ways, it still is. However, there's a difference between within the no changes community. I'd say there's also a smaller subgroup or a smaller spectrum of people who are a little bit more like, okay, I'm no changes, but like some things are just not right. Like another good example I did in my World Bust video, which got a lot of positive and negative feedback. We'll maybe talk about it later, but there's a necklace in the game called a Blazed Fire Medallion, and it adds like 2 or 3 fire damage to every melee attack that you do. And rogues would get this, and they found out rather quickly that if you had plus damage gear on, like from a mage, like plus fire damage gear, that would scale 100% with that necklace. Meaning that, say you somehow accrued like 600 fire damage from like a bunch of gear, and you had that necklace on. Now every auto attack did an additional 603 damage. That to me is completely broken.
Right.
Will it be in the game? I'm going to say right now, I heavily doubt it, because I think Blizzard is going to realize how broken that was, and they're going to remove it. So at what point do you say it's okay to remove X but not Y? And I don't know, and I'm not saying that I do. I'm just kind of saying like,
yeah, it's going to
blindly saying no changes could be very detrimental.
Yeah, it's a yeah, you're setting yourself up to be screwed by something that I mean, it'd be like if the ZG blood thing never got found, and then
the corrupted blood incident. Yeah, exactly.
And then they put
like,
it, and then it
let's leave that in the way it was.
Because it's hashtag no changes. You're like, well, it's in the game. You can't change it. Like,
that's an interesting example. Yeah. So and then you have to think, vanilla lasted for a very long time. Already, we're getting a no changes game, in my opinion, because we're doing 1.12 itemization in the talents. Mm-hmm. That represents a very small portion of Vanilla's timeline. And private servers did this too, fine. But at what point, at what level of no changes is that? You know, and that's the thing that's like, and even the itemization between private servers and classic is different, because private servers actually did patches a lot, like a Light's Hope, which is one of the biggest ones, did like, okay, on a fresh server, we use the older itemization values, and then as the server progressed, we would increase the damage and healing on these pieces. Classic WoW was like, no, if a piece existed in day one, it's going to have 1.12 itemization stats. That already is a change,
right? To
me, that's a huge change. So I think new changes actually doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So,
especially since all the content's already in the game, but they're just locking it behind a switch to say like, all right, phase 2 now. It's not like they're patching the game and adding it. It's just it's there already. They're just gonna turn it on. It's gonna be
correct.
Yeah. So
correct. And like, druids when they first came out were atrocious. Their talent tree was horrible. Their bear form only gave like 60% bonus armor, which I think is a big reason why people shun druids and still continue to this day to shun their tanking capabilities, because of that early meta that gave him such a horrible first impression.
Yeah.
But in reality, druids can off tank and even main tank pretty damn well. I'm not saying they're better than warriors, but I'm saying they can do their job. I've seen druid off tanks tank Nax. I've seen druid off tanks tank Cthulhu, Encourage. I mean, it's doable. It's definitely doable.
Do you think shamans will ever be able to tank? Like, never. I'm assuming it's never like progression content. You'll never be able to tank as a shaman. But coming back a second time, maybe coming through stuff on farm, you could tank.
So I highly recommend checking out Caperfin.
Mm-hmm.
We actually did a video together called the Advanced Shaman Tanking Guide.
Yeah, I've watched them all. I'm just
okay, good. Yeah, so Caperfin actually does tank all tiers, not every boss, but you literally said it. It's non-progression, so they're doing it in farm status mostly. But I will say this: judging from what I've seen on the beta, and judging what I've healed on the beta, and what Def Camp has healed and done on the beta, Def Camp's both healed and tanked as a shaman, and healed shaman tanks. I've healed shaman tanks. I think for dungeons, they're going to be perfectly like. I'm not going to say they're better than warriors, but I'm saying that you can do it. Like,
yeah,
it is doable. I even healed a shaman tank through a dungeon without a shield, using a two-hander. I mean, like, the thing is, like, people just spat out, you can't do this, you can't do that, but you can.
I totally tanked Wailing Caverns when I was back in I think Burning Crusade. I was leveling my shaman. I totally tanked Wailing Caverns as we leveled. And it was totally fine. It was like, it was a little bit different. I was like the first time doing anything, but then my friend was like, dude, Earthshock generates threat. You need to use Earthshock. And I was like, okay. And then we did it, and it worked. Like, okay, it was fine. We were learning the game. It was fun.
Absolutely. And you know, and Caperfin also preaches this, and so do I. So there's a lot of people, there's a difference between viable and optimal, right? Like, yes, shamans are not the most optimal tank in the game. I don't think anyone would argue that they are. You have to be literally totally blind of anything to say that they are the optimal tank. However, I would say they are viable for most 5-man, if not all 5-man content. And I'd say they're viable in certain geared progression states during raiding. I mean, like, if your raid is farming MC, why not have a shaman off tank? Just for shits and gigs. Why not? I'm sorry, I don't know if you can curse on this.
Yeah,
but,
no, you're totally fine.
Yeah. So yeah, Classic WoW is one of the few times in the game where I feel like you can experiment. In TBC, they did a lot of class balancing, and I think we can all agree that Classic WoW may be balanced when you look at it as a whole, from leveling and PvP and PvE, but when you're looking within those aspects of the game, like PvE, it's not a very balanced game. Hunters will, unless you put a lot of effort and theory crafting into it, you're not going to out DPS a warrior. It's just probably not going to happen. But well, you can experiment. You can try these weird things, and you can, be that if you're a hunter, and you can be that Nightfall procer. You can do other things. You can chase that DPS as fast as if you're third or fourth on the meters, that's a huge thing. That's amazing. So, like, there's a lot you can try to prove in Classic WoW. Whereas I think in other iterations of the game, especially now, I think those DPS gaps are so tiny that it's any class can be on the top of the meter depending on the raid in the dungeon, or on the guild.
Yeah, as a shaman, I never expect to be on top of the meters in Burning Crusade and in vanilla, and you're a support class. If you're in there, even as enhanced or elemental, I don't see them ever topping it. But you bring something else that's amazing, and it's totally okay, and I'm totally happy doing that. So yeah,
what are you gonna roll? Would enhancement or elemental?
I think I'm gonna definitely go enhancement. I think I've been elemental for so long in retail, but I mean, I want to be unbreakable, man. I gotta roll,
dude. Yeah, unbreakable's the man, dude.
I gotta roll a two-handed shaman, because I never got to do it. The only time I ever had a two-handed shaman was in Burning Crusade. On my first raid I ever went to that was more than Karazhan was Magtheridon's Lair, and I got the Hammer of the Naru. And this group that had Magtheridon's Lair on farm, they didn't care about the hammer. It dropped, and I was on my terribly geared shaman, but I was there just to give them Wind Fury, and they
Yeah.
said, "Do you want that?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, give that to me. I will be the two-handed shaman." And they were
Yeah.
like, it was already gone. Like by that time, they had already
Yeah.
patched
It
out
was
everything,
already.
and it was a dead like spec. But I was like, I remember like showing up for the next raid with my Hammer of the Naru and my Wind Fury, and I was like, all right, let's go. And of course, it was terrible. It didn't do any like damage
Yeah.
at all. But I think it had strength on it. Did it have strength on it? I have no idea.
It might.
I think it had strength and agility on it.
Hammer of the hour. Let's see.
Back in Burning Crusade, it probably has different stats nowadays.
Oh yeah, good point. Like I wonder what it is in because Wowhead probably has it in their state now because I don't think there is a good TBC. It says 19 strength, 18 stamina, 16 critical strike. So there is no side. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. But I'm sure it had pretty good stats.
Yeah,
Back then. Yeah.
but that was my
But
that was the only time I ever got to try two-hander. So I got to try it at least. And then I definitely,
it's my goal.
yeah,
To get both a elemental and an enhancement endgame guide out before launch. So hopefully that'll help you out.
awesome. Yeah, I've already been
I already
watching.
have collaborators that I'm working with, so it's just a point of getting the slides together and getting it recorded.
And then
Yeah.
watching Sea-Doo win that tournament last week or a couple days ago with the Elemental Shaman against a
Yep.
bunch of mages was just like, oh, that's right. Shamans are here, baby. Even though he had
Elemental just it wrecks mages, dude. I mean, like you have a 6-second reliable silence.
Mhm.
Which I mean, to a mage, that's their worst enemy, right? Silencing them that often. If you have reverberation, that's every 5 seconds. So it's like, and then they just put out so much damage, and then you have grounding totem, which nullifies their spells.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot a mage can do.
A grounding totem and an earth shock is just ridiculous. It's like,
Yep.
and all they can do is counterspell you, and really that's all they have. And you're like, all right, well, I'll just live through this and then come back and kill you in a second.
Exactly. Right. Shamans are a very powerful class, and it's I think for a long time people never realized how powerful they are. And I think a lot of us, including Sea-Doo, doing his work because he gets a lot of views, he gets a lot of eyes.
Mhm.
A lot of the theory crafting, our shaman Discord, which is amazing. Egregious and I started that. Egregious is a kind of like the preeminent resto shaman. He knows everything there is about resto, about healing as a shaman. Him and I started the shaman Discord, and it's been a huge success. I think we have over 2,000 members in there. And it's been great because that community has just been so amazing. Like, hey, test this, hey, test that, and what about this, and what about that? And it's every day there's a new, like, the rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's just amazing that this game never ceases to amaze you, and there's always something to learn about this game.
Mm-hmm. How so? If someone's listening, they want to get on this Discord. Should they go to your website, ClassicWoW.Live, and then
Actually, if I can give you the right, so what's the easiest way? The easiest way to do it would be to go on the newest shaman video, which was Egregious's BIS list. So we did a pre-raid BIS list.
Okay.
In the description of that video is a link to the shaman Discord.
Okay.
That's the best way to do it. There's also, I'm trying to think of another way to get there. Yeah, I think that's the easiest way.
Okay.
Maybe you can put in the link description of the link. Can you put descriptions?
Yeah, I can add.
Okay.
I usually add one link, but I can add multiple links if you want.
Yeah, maybe we can. Well, I'll send that to you, and we can put that in there because that'll be. It's a good resource for people. The Shaman Discord is really big. There's a lot of helpful people in there. If I'm busy, someone will answer your question. Like, there's a lot of people in there. Yeah.
Awesome. And then it brings me to the next question I have for you is ClassicWoW.Live. What is this website? Why have you made it, and what do you hope to get from it, and what's the plan with this? Because it's been really useful for me as a resource for not just as a shaman, but just every kind of guide and thing that your team and this group of people that have come together to make this. It's been really impressive. What's your opinion, and what are you doing with that? Explain it a little.
So initially, it started out as a way for content creators to collaborate. So the hardest thing in the world, and I'm sure you can attest to this, is when you start doing something, when you start making content of any kind, you feel very alone.
Mm-hmm.
You have like 10 viewers, you have like 5 subscribers, you're like, what the hell am I doing?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Such an uphill battle. It's never ending uphill battle, right? And so Cargos actually was the first one to think about this. He contacted me in Def Camp, and he's like, do you want to start like a website we can like kind of like highlight everyone's stuff? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So what we did was we literally went into the community, put our feelers out there, And actually, the glue that held this together was, Cargos was the initiator, but the glue was actually Countdown to Classic, and I'm sure you've probably heard of Josh over at Countdown to Classic, who is a podcaster as well. He's probably the most well-known Classic WoW podcaster, and I was on his show previously because we were doing a healing episode, and I met there's like kind of like this like class of ClassicWoW.Live, and you kind of meet all these people who have been in that show, and one of them is Taladrill, who's a Druid theory crafter, and Ale, who is on there as a vanilla veteran who cleared Nax, and we all kind of like got kind of friendly, and we started talking to each other, and Taladrill is a huge theory crafter, and Ale was this vanilla veteran, but he's also a full stack developer. And we were like, okay, we want to create this website, Al. Can you help us out? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So it started out to just be basically a way to showcase people's stuff without YouTube's algorithm and politics and all this stuff. But it eventually evolved into something much larger. We started thinking about, well, since we have a developer, why don't we build tools? Why don't we build a forum? Why don't we build an atlas that you can actually explore Azeroth and look at the underground zones and and then now we're instituting a leveling guide, an interactive leveling guide that you can literally have on your other monitor on your phone and actually help you level. All these things are going to be coming out before launch, and it's just evolved over time to just keep incorporating new stuff. And I don't know what the end goal is, but I would like to provide something for the community that isn't run by a corporation and isn't an afterthought. And I'm going to kind of down talk Wowhead here, but they're a direct competitor, and that's fine. Wowhead's a great resource. But the problem with Wowhead is Classic WoW is just a checkbox on that website. It's not, the website isn't built for Classic WoW. Our website is built for Classic WoW. And that's kind of the difference between us. And we want to really build up that difference is like, we live, breathe, and eat this game. We don't care about any other iteration in the game. I mean, if they bring out TBC, we'll probably start providing TBC references too. Like, I love that part of the game too. But what I'm trying to say is like, this is about the classic era of World of Warcraft. This isn't about retail. This isn't about, so that's kind of the dream, and we're going to keep moving. We have every week we have new meetings, and we bring more people into the fold, and we have more people that upload content, and anybody can upload content. You don't have to be Cargos. You don't have to be Mr. GM. You could be anybody. You can be Joe Schmo that just wants to create a video and put it on our website, and it will get traction, probably more traction than on YouTube, because everyone's going, people are going to be searching for content on this site for Classic WoW alone.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's a great resource. It's been awesome to see it. It just kind of popped up out of nowhere on for me when I just ran into you. I think I ran into a shaman video on YouTube, and then I was like, oh, what's this ClassicWoW.Live? And then it's been great.
Oh, and I forgot about the whole so the .live, the reason we called it .live is we also wanted to highlight streamers, because it's also hard to become a streamer, not just a YouTube content creator. So our live tab, what it does is it shows all of the currently streaming streamers who stream Classic WoW as most of their streaming content. I'm not saying all of it, but like a good example would be Asmongold. Asmongold doesn't just stream Classic WoW; he does stream retail, but he's still on our website because I think when Classic WoW comes out, he's going to transition more to be streaming that. So if you're a small streamer and want to be put on Classic WoW.Live as a, and what Classic WoW.Live does is that it's not like Twitch or YouTube where you have to click. Everyone who's streaming at that moment is on that page, and you can click and see who you want to watch. It's not like Twitch where you have to be who's streaming. Maybe I have to look here and click this button. Everyone's portrait pops up immediately, whether they're a YouTube streamer or a Twitch streamer. YouTube we haven't integrated yet. Sorry, YouTube's a lot harder to integrate. Twitch's API allows you to kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Embed. Thank you very much. It lets Twitch's API lets you embed Twitch streams. YouTube doesn't do that, but it's still for me it's a better way to peruse Classic WoW content, because in Twitch, if you're not subscribed or following that person, you have no idea that they even exist. But Classic WoW.Live will show you that these people do exist.
And they're
And
streaming Classic WoW because Twitch doesn't even determine between those two, the retail WoW and the Classic WoW. It's just all
good
World of
point.
Warcraft, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, which one is? I want to find a shaman who plays Classic WoW right now, and like just even trying to find that is just like kind of like all right, let's click on this guy. Maybe he's playing a shaman. Oh, no, he's not. Keep next guy. All right, and you got to
that's a
watch
good
it,
idea.
and
Actually, I
watching
think
an
we
ad
should.
every time.
Yeah, we should definitely start to think about adding filters. Like, hey, do you want to watch a shaman? Do you want to watch a priest? I mean, that's going to be hard because people switch back and forth.
Right.
But that's an interesting way of thinking about it too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean honestly when the Classic WoW started the beta, all I was watching so many different people, but every person I was watching was like, well, he's not playing a shaman. He's not playing a shaman. I gotta find a shaman, and then I don't think I
Yeah.
even found Sea-Doo until the tournament. I'm sure I followed him, but it wasn't like yeah, it was just one of those things that you're looking for someone, and then you have to find someone that's between retail and between classic that is also playing the class you want. And doing the activity that you want. Also, I want to watch him PvP, or I want to watch him do a dungeon, or whatever it is.
That's a good point. And I think that's another huge thing is that the classes are so important in Classic WoW. Class identity is huge, and it can literally make or break. You know, it dictates what content you're going to consume because like you're playing, you're spending all this time on this main, right? I mean, alts are a very minor thing in Classic WoW, except for the tryhards who like literally level an alt just to have like that guy at level 60 to go back and that's a very small portion of the population that does that. And I think that class identity is such a huge part of Classic WoW. So finding people who are in have similar interests is huge. And Classic WoW.Live also helps you do that because of our we have these class filters. And we have a guides page, which is filtered by class and by aspect of the game, PvE, PvP, leveling, and economy. We also have a community page, which is all non-guide content. So if you have a piece of content that's not a guide, anything that's not a guide gets its own exclusive web page. And that could be lore. It could be like, why I love the undead or why I play shaman or podcasts like this. You can upload these podcasts as if I don't know if you put them as videos on YouTube, but if you did, you could literally link them as a piece of content. We put that up in our shows section.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't stick to just Classic WoW. I mean, I can honestly say that every episode I've talked about Classic WoW more than any other thing. But I felt like I don't want to just stick to just Classic because that's what I did 10 years ago, and I was like, as soon as I stopped playing WoW, I was like, wow, I can't keep doing my podcast because I have no idea what to talk about now, and it just kind of ended. So yeah.
I mean, it's always good to have a lot of interests. Definitely, yeah.
And then so I want to plug your stuff real quick because I want everyone to go follow you. So it's at def_meltv for Twitter, twitch.tv/defcamp DEFCAMP for Twitch.
Yep.
YouTube is defcampn, which is the ampersand Melderon TV, and then of course ClassicWoW.Live. We want this is all the things you guys, if you're listening right now, go follow him, go check him out. His content's amazing. The ClassicWoW.Live content is amazing, and there's so many people working there and making stuff that it's just an amazing resource.
Thank you. That's huge. Thank you, John. And if anybody has any questions, like anything, like in all of our videos, you can email me directly as John did, as he got in touch with me at melderon.gaming@gmail.com. And we have our own Discord. The links is in every video description of the videos we make. If you want to come and talk to us personally, you can also PM me on Discord. I don't care. Melderon #1287. I will get to you eventually. Sometimes I'm busy, but I will get to you if I'm at work or if I have other people talking to me. But I usually have no issue talking to people one-on-one if you have any questions. So.
Well, awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I don't know. That's basically everything. There's like other little questions that don't really matter, but
I mean, if you want to ask me, go right ahead. I mean, I can stick around for a few more minutes if you want.
No, these are all. I think we actually covered all this. This is what's your favorite game to stream? What's your favorite game to play? What's your favorite game? What games are you looking forward to right now? It's like, oh, Classic WoW. Yeah.
Yeah. basically. I honestly, it's the only game I play
Yeah,
right now. So it's like,
gotcha.
with my limited time, I kind of dedicated myself to this game. So, yeah.
Gotcha. No worries, man. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for coming on, and have a great day.
You too, John. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. You've listened to episode 6 of Jamencast. I know you're impressed, you're happy, you're excited, you're fulfilled, everything, right? Right, everyone? Feeling good? Let's do some cleaning, some house cleanup, because we got to make sure that you guys know where to find me, okay? So I'm on Twitter. Twitter is Jamin the Shaman, at Jamin the Shaman. That's me on Twitter. Feel free to follow me because I will post anytime I'm having an update, anytime I'm interviewing someone. I usually interview people live on Twitch, and then I clean it up and I make it all nice and beautiful for the podcast itself. It comes out on Saturdays. But at Jamin the Shaman on Twitter. If you want to follow me on YouTube as well, I'm youtube.com/Jamin the Shaman. My Twitch is where you can find all the stuff when I'm live. If you want to watch me, if you want to follow, do that. Twitch.tv/Jamin. Playing World of Warcraft, playing Hitman, playing whatever I feel, but World of Warcraft right now is the game to play. So if you're interested in WoW at the moment, check me out. I'm doing the same things you are. And one last thing I want to talk about is the music that I was playing today. The music for the transitions. Every week I'm trying to find something different, something I like, something that feels solid that I can hold on to. But I feel like if every episode I have that same music playing, it's going to get old pretty fast. So if you have any ideas, guys, about how to make this music, I'm learning all sorts of apps, all sorts of things. If you have any podcast experience, you like this stuff, feel free to. I would love some advice here. Do you like the music? Do you like me humming? Do you like me whistling? Do you like me snapping? What do you like? What are you feeling? I want to hear from you, the listener. What do you like from this podcast? Because I have my ideas. But I keep trying new things, and nothing's quite striking the chord that I want. But I think it's good. I liked it. I liked that music. I felt good. What do you think? All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for being here. Have a great evening. Have a great life. And have a great morning.